All right, we made it back to Odessa. It was the fastest trip to Ukraine that I've ever done, but we got a lot done in a short period of time. Really made the most of every minute of this trip. Got to help some people, meet some incredible heroes, and I think I would consider this a great success. Hey everybody, how's it going? Chuck Holton here. It's been a roller coaster of a week. We've been living on overnight trains, going all over Ukraine, going to a different hotspot every day, trying to bring what's happening on the ground. Now, I want to give you just a quick overview of our trip. We started out, the first mission we did was into Holton. And when we went there, one of the things we found is that you have to drive through these tunnels of netting over the roads because of the drone threat. They put these like fish nets over the roads now when you're close to the front lines. So you know you're getting into the danger zone when you start driving through these tunnels of nets. And here's a picture I took of a Russian one-way attack drone that got caught up in the net and blew up in the net and didn't blow up a car that was traveling on the road itself. So they're putting up miles and miles of these nets just all around in the combat zone, but they're not perfect. We saw the video the other day of a Russian drone that got under the net and then hit a car that was driving in there on a road that we had been on that same day. So it's not just the roads that they're covering with nets, it's also the gas stations. You can imagine here in Kherson, there are not a lot of gas stations still operating. This is one of them, and people line up to get gas from this thing. But you might notice that this gas tank above ground is surrounded by a net. And this one over here is also. They put these nettings around here to stop the FPV drones from hitting these gas tanks. And you can tell that they tried here and failed to blow it up. So that was in the city of Kherson. The city of Kherson is under Ukrainian control, but it's so close to the river. And that's where the human safari is taking place, where the Russians are sending drones over every day, not to hit military vehicles and soldiers, but to hit everyday civilians, children playing in their yards, women walking down the street, men on bicycles. We visited one home of a woman whose home was within sight of the river, and her house got hit by a drone only 2 days before we were there. This is what her house looked like. In the city of Kherson, this house was hit by a Russian drone, totally destroyed, burned the house, and unfortunately the owner of the house died in the fire. You know, just looking at the destruction that's caused, does this look like a military target to you? That's not a military target. There's nothing military about this. It's not anywhere close to a military target. After we went to that distribution, we left the area close to the river, and then we drove. The van pulls up, the chaplains jump out, start offloading food. There's people gathered around. People start coming out of the woodwork, and they just start coming and running, you know, to try to get some food. And they're just in tears, and they're telling you, like, we don't have a way to get food unless you people bring food in here. It's so sad, though, that they have to live in that situation. Now, we also went to the downtown central square of Kherson. 3 years ago, almost to the day, I was here in the center of Kherson, and it was a scene of jubilation because the city had just been rescued from the Russians. And I was here with my daughter Amy at that time. Now, the city hall has been destroyed by a missile, and there's almost a ghost town here. I'm here with my son Nathan this time, and we'll have to see if I get to come back again, which kid will get to come with me. The next mission was to Kyiv. We went up to Kyiv. Kyiv has been hit very hard by Russian missile attacks. About every third or fourth night, they get hundreds of missiles and drones fired at them. Most of them get shot down, but enough get through that it causes some damage. I've heard pundits like Colonel McGregor talking about how the city is a smoking ruin. We went to and spent the day there checking out the places that we found that were damaged. As you walk around the city of Kyiv, here, you hear about so much destruction from all these hundreds of missiles and drones that are coming in here on an almost nightly basis. But here in Kyiv, they've tried to fix the damage as quickly as possible. For example, this apartment building behind me was struck by a drone. And if you can see the apartment right up there that has a Ukrainian flag on it. That's the one that was struck. But other than different colored tiles now, you really can't tell, even though that was less than a year ago. Kyiv is a city of 4 million people. There are more people in Kyiv now than there were at the beginning of the war because a lot of refugees have come to Kyiv. Even downtown, where the actual military targets would be, like the government buildings and the president's office and things like that, had not been hit. And that wasn't for a lack of trying. Russia has tried very hard to hit those, but they have a lot of their air defenses around the downtown area. What Russia has been doing is focusing on methodically destroying the power grid. What you notice is that pretty much everybody now has a generator, and they have solar panels up there. There's a ton of solar panels all over Ukraine now that weren't there before. And so people have started to go to a more distributed power generation scheme that Russia cannot touch. So yes, Russia could eventually take out the power grid in Ukraine, but that's not going to stop the Ukrainians because they get their power from generators, and they have lots of natural gas in Ukraine, so they can run their generators off the natural gas. Let's move over to this 28-point peace plan. This is where it gets a little more frustrating for me, because just being in Ukraine, you kind of find out that we should not reward Russia for attacking Ukraine. And that's exactly what this 28-point peace plan does. It proposes that Russia be able to maintain control of areas that they occupy and be given some areas that they don't yet occupy. So Ukraine would have to turn over more of their country to Russia under this peace proposal. It's also said to include a demand that after the war, Ukraine has to cut its military in half. It cannot accept any training or equipment or weaponry or anything from outside Ukraine. All 28 points of this peace plan are essentially Russia's original goals for this war, giving Russia pretty much everything that they wanted. So there's no compromise on the part of Russia at all. This was not a peace plan that was negotiated between Ukraine and Russia. This was a peace plan that was negotiated between the United States and Russia. Ukraine retains nominal legal title. The only quasi-compromise is that Moscow would basically pay a rental fee or land tax to Kyiv. Russia might make limited adjustments in parts of Zaporizhia and Kherson that it only partially controls right now. But there is talk that the United States or NATO would give some sort of security guarantee to Ukraine. But what we've proven to Ukraine so far in this president's tenure is that we can't be trusted to keep our word. Ukraine has plenty of reasons to reject this right now. In fact, spoiler alert, they did reject it. So far in 2025, the United States has funded only 0.48% of the aid that has gone to Ukraine. Europe has filled in the rest, almost $50 billion. And if you actually add up what Europe has donated in the past 3 years or 4 years, a lot more than the United States has in total aid. President Trump is trying to have his cake and eat it too. It's Putin's wish list, not a peace plan. What President Trump has succeeded in doing is removing any leverage that the United States has over Ukraine. Because if Ukraine agrees to this peace plan, they give up their country. It's almost guaranteed that Russia will lick its wounds, rebuild its military, and then attack again. Guaranteed. And if they don't accept the peace plan and they lose American aid, then they're only giving up less than half of 1% of the total aid that they're receiving right now. So the United States doesn't really have a leg to stand on here. When we pull back from the global geopolitical game, someone else will fill the void. President Trump succeeded in Gaza because he has incredible leverage over countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Jordan and indeed Israel. Because of the donations, the money we give and the weapons we give to all four of those countries every year, we have leverage over them and we can get them to see our way of thinking. But we have abandoned that for Ukraine. So Ukraine now doesn't have a reason
to accept this peace plan. I translated a very difficult speech that Zelensky gave just an hour ago in Kyiv about this peace plan.
The pressure on Ukraine right now is among the most severe. Ukraine may now face a very difficult choice, either a loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner, or challenging 28 points, or an extremely harsh winter, the toughest, and further risks. A life without freedom, without dignity, without any justice, and that we should believe the one who has attacked us already twice.
So he's saying we have a choice to make. We have a choice to give up our dignity or give up our most important trading partner. That's the United States. So it's down to our dignity or our relationship with the United States. And then he says we have a choice between this very difficult 28-point plan, and President Trump's office apparently said to Zelensky that you either accept this peace plan by Thanksgiving or you lose all aid and support from the United States, including intelligence support. And so Zelensky looked at that and said only half of 1% of the aid that we're getting right now is coming from the United States. And so even though we value the U.S. as a trading partner and we really would like to do business with them and we'd prefer to be getting aid from them, if we have to give that up to maintain our dignity and not have an unjust outcome to this war, then that's what we're going to have to do. And President Trump just gave Zelensky an impossible choice. And Zelensky made the only choice that he could legitimately make. He was not elected to sell out his country. And that's exactly what he'd be doing if he took this deal. Zelensky, and indeed most Ukrainians, believe that they're actually starting to win. Victory is actually possible. The recent strikes on Novorossiysk and other energy targets hurt export revenue, raise Russia's wartime costs, and spook the oil market. So the price of oil drops, and other countries like Saudi Arabia pumping more oil, which is lowering the price and making it almost impossible for Russia to make money on their oil. Any deal that locks in the current front lines and requires the Ukrainians to demilitarize, that's insane. Ukraine already traded away its nuclear arsenal in the 1990s in exchange for US, UK, and Russian security guarantees under the Budapest Memorandum. When Russia invaded in 2014 and then again in 2022, those guarantees turned out to be not worth the paper they were written on. So this new plan, the 28-point plan, looks like the Budapest Memorandum 2.0. Zelensky has been under tremendous pressure because people that are part of his government, like the guy in charge of the nuclear energy agency in Ukraine, and even one of Zelensky's old business partners, have been indicted for corruption, for stealing $100 million taxpayer money that was paid by Ukrainian taxpayers. Zelensky has called for those people to be arrested. 6 of the 8 have been arrested. The other 2 fled the country. It certainly would not help Zelensky politically to be seen as selling land. That's why in this speech he just gave, he made very clear, our land is not for sale. Under Ukraine's constitution, territory can only be ceded by a referendum. So they would have to have a nationwide vote, including in the areas that are currently occupied by Russia, because Ukraine still considers those to be part of Ukraine. I talked to people along the front lines yesterday, and they said, we still have family in the Donbass that is under Russian occupation. We're not going to give that land up to Russia. We'll never see our family again. We want to fight and get it back. Zelensky has gotten pretty good at playing Trump's game and saying, we're willing to do whatever was necessary. But this has all come to a head now. President Trump giving Zelensky this ultimatum, you have to accept this peace deal by Thanksgiving. Zelensky's got to stand up to him. And he did. He said, no, we officially reject the 28-point peace plan. We're not going to sign it. Signing it would be capitulating to Russia. Russia keeps all its gains. Ukraine loses its military. The West offers fake guarantees that nobody can trust. And Russia probably goes back on their word anyway. The odds that this peace deal goes anywhere are next to nil. Russia has not signed this peace deal yet, and it's not likely they would. Russia is not doing well on the battlefield. The Ukrainians also retook ground around Kupiansk in the last couple of days. So Ukraine sees the momentum shifting. Ukraine believes that the winter will be every bit as hard on Russia as it will be on Ukraine. And they've already taken 20% of Russia's oil capacity offline, and they're going to continue that program of taking out their critical infrastructure. So 6 months from now, Russia could be on the ropes, and Ukraine has become more resilient as time has gone on.